Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be making a terrazzo shader in Blender. So first I'm just going to delete the default cube and then I'm going to add in a icosphere, setting the subdivisions to about 5 and a shading smooth. Now I'm going to open up the shader editor, add in a new shader and call this terrazzo. Then what I want to do is add in a Voronoi texture. If we preview it and set this to rendered mode as well, you can see this is the pattern that we're getting, and this closely matches that of the terrazzo tiles. So we're just going to be using this. Also going to set up some default lighting. So just disable the scene world and enable denoising, and that should be fine. And what I want to do now is add in a math node and then set this to greater than, so we don't get all of these shards, and just set the threshold to something like 0.8. So they are mostly disconnected. Now I want to increase the scaling to about 25. So it looks like this, all these little specks. And then what I want to do is have different layers of this on top of each other with different colors. So what we're going to be doing is setting this to 4D, so we get a seed value, so we can change that for all of the other ones. And then I'm going to duplicate these and just place them under each other. I'm going to do about 4. So we have about 4 of these right now. And what I want to do now is add in a mixed color shader and then just put it over here. Set this to the factor, and then the stop value will be the background color, and then this foreground value will be the color of the specs. I want to separate the color of the specs into a different RGB node so we can change that later, and then just set the default color for this. I have already found a nice color that I like, so I'm just going to paste it in. And I'm going to show you the hex code here so you can use that as well. Now for the other shaders, I'm going to duplicate this mix shader and then just place it over here and then use this greater than value in the factor. And then I want to get a new color over here. So I want to add in a hue saturation and value node in between this and then just shift the hue around to something like 0.65 or something, just so we have a yellow color, and that looks about right. And then as you can see, it's pretty much overlaid, and that's because I forgot to change the seed value for this one. So set the seed to something like 1, and then on this one to 2, this one to 3. So now these all look different if you preview them. Alright, and I'm just going to repeat that for the other Voronoi textures, and then you just use a different hue value. So connect this to the factor, and then this color over here, and set this to something like 0.75, so we have a green color. And it should look like this. And then once more for the last one, and a hue saturation value node. And then just set this to 0 so it is blue. And that's about enough colors for me. Then we can just change this first color to create some variations in it if you want. That is it for most of the material, of course. Now we just need to clean up and add in some principled BSDF shader here. So if we now just put it into the principled BSDF, it looks pretty rough and not really realistic. So the first thing you can do is turn down the roughness to 0.1, which adds in a little bit of shininess, but it still isn't really looking how the tiles should look. So what you want to do is go over to the coat and then just increase the weight to 1. So you have this nice clear coat over top of it, which is exactly what you want. Something else that I want to do is add in a plane, so we can just preview it on there as well. And then as you can see, if you have an object intersecting with it, it doesn't really look that realistic because it's just the same color. So what I also want to add is a ambient occlusion node, just so we get that little bit of shadow baked into the texture. I want to exaggerate this a little bit, so add in a math node, set this to power, put it in here, and set the power to something like 2. And this will create a nice shadow effect where it's intersecting with an object. And then we just want to mix this in with the other color, put this into the top value, and then the result of this one into the bottom. Set this to darken and then factor of 1, and that will look like this. So now if you have an object sitting on top of this, it will have a nice shadow. That's it for the plane, and that's pretty much the entire shader. Now we can just connect everything up to a node group. So just select everything, hit Ctrl G, and you will have a node group here. And then we can just connect things like the color up here. Make sure they're all the same value and connect them back up again. Something like this background color as well. And for something like this seed, which I want to change, we can add in math nodes and then just do an add and add 1 to the seed value that you have here and just put it into the next shader. And yeah, just do that for everything until you're left with the result that you want. Once you have done all of that, it should look something like this. Now you just have your nice shader, and it looks like this. You can change the scaling, you can change the value of how much specs you have. And I didn't really show that, but you can just change the greater than value to do that. So just connected that up to the input, and then use this setup as a nice range that you could use. And yeah, this is pretty much it. So if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.